Howdy, cruisers. It is raining here in South Florida, and it's going to be raining for the rest of the afternoon. So I thought, let's just talk. I'm trying to get through this. I'm trying to practice, trying to get through this in one take, or as close to one take as possible. So let's see how things go. I'm sure you have all heard about this situation with the Carnival cruiser who ended up discovering her Type 2 phaser in her bag after it was delivered to her cabin on a Carnival cruise. And I thought I would just talk to you a few minutes about how me, as a very frequent cruiser, having just finished my 53rd sailing, and as a very frequent flyer, having flown I don't know how many millions of miles, about how I would feel about a situation like this, learning that she did manage to end up with her Type 2 phaser in her cabin. And I first saw this story, I think 2 days ago, and my initial reaction was, okay, it happens. Not a big deal. Really, not a big deal to me. In fact, if I had seen this pass by on an aviation site about somebody was discovered in a terminal with a Type 2 phaser, honestly, it wouldn't bother me one bit, because yeah, I'm sure this happens more than anybody would care to admit. In fact, if you think about maybe 10, 15 years ago when the TSA used to publish their testing results, when they would, test certain devices through the checkpoints, they would routinely have a failure rate of 90%. So yeah, even if you say a Type 2 phaser is a lot easier to spot and are generously going to give them credit for seeing half of them, that still means about 6,000 get into the aviation system every year, and nothing seems to happen. So yeah, I'm okay. Doesn't bother me a bit. In fact, if you had told me that we were on the same cruise ship, wouldn't bother me a bit. If you told me we were in adjoining cabins, wouldn't bother me a bit. If you had told me that I was on flights with people who accidentally left their Type 2 phaser in their bag, again, wouldn't bother me a bit. Wouldn't bother me a bit, because I know this has happened. In fact, this apparently was back in April, and I was also on a Carnival cruise in April, so we might have been in Nassau together, and oh well, I was on Carnival Elation. You still haven't seen that yet, and she was on, I think, Carnival Freedom. So yeah, as a frequent cruiser, frequent flyer, I know this happens. Doesn't bother me a bit. If you're worried about it, don't be. That's my only advice. Just don't be. Now, loyal and longtime members of the court know that I don't really put too much stock in all this sort of security infrastructure and everything like that. I know, like I stated before, with what the TSA used to publish. So yeah, the fact that this happened, I don't know, it's fine. It's totally fine with me. In fact, also, that's right. These guys, what was it, 3 or 4 months ago, that were busted on Grand Turk for having some pieces of metal in their carry-on bag. Yeah, how do you think they got there? One, I think, flew to the island. The other flew to the cruise port. So yeah, it happens. And when I heard about that story, I think I commented on this. Again, doesn't bother me at all, because I know that it happens. So yeah, there you go. If you're worried about it, just don't be. And for all these people who are saying that she snuck her Type 2 phaser on board, no, she didn't sneak it on board. She just forgot about it. That's it. She just forgot about it. That's what happens at the airport all the time. And for people who are saying that she should be arrested for this, no. If you show up, put it this way, if you are otherwise lawfully carrying and you show up at a checkpoint with your Type 2 phaser in your bag, worst case scenario is you will get a fine. What happens is if they find it, of course, they call law enforcement. You are escorted out of the building or off the property, where you can then secure the device and then return and board your flight. Expect some extra scrutiny, but that's pretty much all that will happen, provided you are otherwise lawfully carrying. So yeah, so be sure. Now, granted, you could say that, there's no excuse for forgetting, and honestly, yeah, you should know where each of your Type 2 phasers are at all times. But again, I'm sure it's happened. Nothing's happened, so I don't worry about it. And this does give an opportunity to comment a little bit on why this happened, and even in this particular scenario, because she did mention that her sausages, okay, and pickles, okay, who takes sausages and pickles on the cruise? Honestly, that is the weirdest part of this story, to be honest. Sausage and pickles you take on a cruise ship? Okay, hey, you know what? Everybody, to each her own, right? But here's what happened, I guarantee. Her bag was going through the scanner, and they saw the jar of pickles, which is a large jar of liquid, which is what they're looking for. They opened the bag, they found that, and that's it. Once they found that, they just stopped right there. Okay. What happened after? Who knows? They might have just taken it and delivered the bag. Well, actually, apparently they did deliver the bag. And that was it. And it's the same thing at the airport checkpoints. They're looking for water and shampoo primarily because that's what people forget in their bags. And whether it be at the cruise port, the screeners looking for booze, and at the airport, the screeners looking for shampoo and water, every time they find something, they get credit. They look good to their supervisor, and that's it. They've done their job. The problem is, because they're looking specifically for these otherwise harmless bottles of liquid, they're missing the dangerous stuff. So that's why I know the whole liquid thing at the airport was always kind of silly to me. It was never proven, and yeah, who knows? It's probably just some conspiracy between the airport vendors and, the people who are just being convinced by the vendors that this rule should still apply, right? So there you go. If you are concerned about this incident and whatever, just don't be. After how many thousands of flights, millions of miles, 53 cruises, doesn't bother me one bit. It will not change how I look at my next cruise. It will not change how I look at my next flight. So I will just keep cruising and flying in bliss because you know what? It's going to happen, and you know what? Hey, I have survived this long. So if you make it on board our next cruise, which will be in 2 weeks, I will see you on board the cruise ship or the airplane, presuming we both make it through all of this with our pickles and sausages.